Okay, welcome to our November 5th Community of Practice. Thank you all very, very much for your patience and clicking around like crazy, probably trying to make this happen. As always, the event is brought to you by the Community Research Specialists, and we also have Xiaolei Tang joining us today from the IIRER Training Division. We can move on to the next slide. So here's our agenda for today. So we're going to go through our welcome quickly, some October highlights. We have a customer profile from AID, which will be presented by Tara. And then for everyone who was at the annual meeting recently, we had started a discussion about working with parents, talking about their fears, sort of the things that the employment specialists experience, and navigating parents, guardians, and working with clients to obtain competitive integrated employment. So we're going to continue with that presentation at this COP, and we're going to be using Slido to get some interaction from you all. So I'm gonna hope and pray that goes more smooth than trying to get into this meeting today. And then finally, we are just going to, what we want to do is, we want your insight into these community of practices. I know that when this first started out, I had an anonymous survey. We want to ensure that what we're bringing you all is meaningful, and it's content that you all find helpful in your day-to-day, SWTCIE lives. So we have, again, with Slido, we have a couple questions that we want to utilize to try to get some feedback from everybody. Okay, next slide, please. So the SWTCIE annual meeting, really, really great event. I know we had some big winners at the event. I think that that was a really good add-on to this event, having the tickets. Definitely a lot of really good sessions. We heard from the evaluation team. We heard from, Jim and Robin going over the contracts, VCU, of course, with the customer case studies, which is always really, really great. I think some of those are the best portion of the annual meetings when we get together and everyone can kind of open up about what they're experiencing and we can kind of share ideas. So I hope you all enjoy that event. We always enjoy bringing everyone together. I think we really have a great team, not only in the work that we do, but just in the relationships that we've built over the time working under SWTCIE. So it's really, really wonderful when we can all get together. Next slide, please. So something else I wanted to highlight was the Fox Valley Community Conversation. This was led by Christina Erland. So she's one of our community research specialists. I'm sure everyone knows Christina. She's working with SWTCIE. She also works with Pathways, and this was kind of a baby of hers that she started, I'm not even sure now, 4 or 5 months ago, maybe, working with the community around AID in Fox Valley. So this was an event that brought together various members of that Fox Valley region. This was parents, advocates, business owners, transition individuals, the staff from AID came, and we just got together to have some general open discussions about competitive integrated employment for people with disabilities, talking about the benefits, some of the barriers, the perceived barriers, and kind of brought a number of different stakeholders together to kind of just have an open dialogue, gather information, and then we're going to continue the conversation, based on all the notes that we're taking. We have another meeting coming up next week to kind of talk about how to bridge some of those gaps. And this is something that, we hope to create throughout SWTCIE, for the different agencies, kind of bringing different stakeholders together to have these conversations. Because I think a part of what makes this work difficult is, it takes a team to make this work. It takes a business, it takes the employment specialist, it takes a DRS counselor, it takes a family. Everyone sort of has to work together seamlessly to make this happen. And we're not always all in the same room to have these conversations and to understand people's ideas, their fears, some of the barriers. So we're hoping to bring this event to other other communities around the SWTCIE agencies. Any questions about the Fox Valley Community Conversation? Move into, got it, the SWTCIE Customer Highlight. I'm going to work with Tara from AID, the employment specialist that worked with this client, to present his information. This is someone that obviously the employment specialist has worked with very closely, but this is a client that I have met on numerous occasions as well. So I do have some different insight into this client's journey into competitive integrated employment. So the young man you see in the photo, his name is Barton. He is a SWTCIE client over at AID. His employment specialist is Tara, and he is a youth contemplator. So he was coming out of a transition program and then was referred to AID and SWTCIE through Christina Erland and his transition teacher. We can move on to the next slide. So Barton works at Meijer. He is a cart attendant. The way that this came about is Tara and the other employment specialist at AID had went to a career fair at a local library with different employers in the area. They had met a manager at a Meijer, and they set up a time to do a working interview with Barton. And it wasn't only Barton, there was another client at AID who also participated in this working interview. And something that was kind of unique about this was when they showed up for the working interview, the person they had originally connected with was not there. So both clients had to do just a regular sit-down interview with someone who kind of wasn't aware of the program, SWTCIE, that they weren't the person that made the original connection with the employment specialist. And both Barton and the other client absolutely aced their interviews from what I've been told, and were both hired on the spot at Meijer. We can go to the next slide. I don't want to get ahead of myself here. So Tara, so we just want to kind of have an open conversation about this. Through your time working with Barton, what did you learn in the discovery process that assisted you with identifying this type of job for your client?
So Barton is a quiet individual. He doesn't share a lot. So it was a little bit difficult in the beginning working with him, trying to figure out, things that he likes to do or interested in. So it took a little bit for us to get to that space. Barton had a lot of pressure on him to find a job with better hours and things like that. So we had to work through a lot of that before we can get to a space where we can talk about, things that interest in him and things like that. Yeah, he didn't have a lot of confidence at all. And I think it's because, he's been through a lot. And like I said, there was a lot of pressure on him from school and his dad, to get a driver's license, find a better job, like I said, and with better hours and better pay. So he was overwhelmed a lot. So it was hard for him to sit with me and talk about, the exciting things of finding a job and things like that.
Yeah, and I can say, when I met with Barton for the first time, I think that he was experiencing something that I'm sure many of us experience when you get out of high school and you're supposed to figure out exactly what you want to do, how to make money, how to become an adult. And you could just tell that Barton was extremely overwhelmed by this. And I think moving on to the next question, based on the way that, Barton perceived himself, I think developing trust with another person was very difficult for him. Tara, can you talk a little bit about how you built that relationship with Barton and also the employment site?
I like with all my individuals that I support, I just make it a very relaxed, casual atmosphere environment. When we're together, I don't put a lot of pressure on them. I let them take the lead. It may begin and last for a while for them to be able to talk about things that are personal to them, So I feel like that's how, I build my relationships with them. I create a space for them to feel safe, to talk to me about anything. And then, it's easier to move on to other things, and when we do, it's easier for them to trust me because, they felt comfortable to talk to me about things that they wouldn't talk with, anybody else, much less a stranger.
And we kind of talked about the employment site, but I wanted to say a few things about, we spoke a lot during your time with Barton while you were working with him. And, Tara would try really, really hard to set up times to meet with Barton, to set up different opportunities in the community, to take him to places that he wanted to go. Barton really likes games like Dungeons and Dragons, sort of board games. And there were many opportunities where Tara had tried to set up times for him to go to these different places, just not even for a job, but just to go out, go to lunch together, just kind of have time in the community together. And even those things, Barton really didn't want to participate in. And, we tried different ways to sort of engage him, to kind of help him gain some confidence and gain some trust. And I really thought that Barton was going to be a guy that at some point was just going to say, you know what, I feel really overwhelmed. I don't want to get a job. But Tara really did a wonderful job taking the time to continuously connect with him, continuously find different ways to make him feel uncomfortable, to build that trust. So eventually they did get to go to a local gaming store where Tara, I can imagine, or I remember you telling me, his whole attitude changed.
Yeah.
We kind of talked about it in the annual meeting, but all the control kind of came to Barton. He was able to tell Tara about what he likes, the games, the different characters, how he likes to paint them, show her pictures of different things. So he kind of was in control of the environment then. It was a safe space for him. And I think that really assisted with the trust building that allowed Tara to eventually get him this job at Meyer and trust her enough to take the opportunity.
Yeah, it took a little while for us to, build up to that part where we can go out in the community. He always had a reason and a rhyme why and, things like that. And then just one day I told him, I said, let's just take the pressure off of this. We're not going to go in and talk to anybody about a job. I just want to see what you like to do, the characters that you tell me about and you show me pictures of that you paint and things like that. I want to see them in person and I want you to show me and tell me about them because I have no idea about this stuff. I have nephews, but I have no idea. Don't ask me. And I think that's what got him to be like, oh, okay. So we went in there, we spent, I thought we were going to be in and out, to be honest with you, but we spent a good like 30, 40 minutes in there. And he went through every single character, every level, every different, like there's a group of them for this level and a group of them for that level and every name and everything, and showed me the paints that he uses for this one and that one. So it was a really good time. And that's what I wanted out of it. And I think that's what really broke his guard, took down his guard for me.
Yeah, I think it really just highlights the importance of jumping into the client's world
Hmm.
while we expect them to jump into our world for the employment services we're trying to provide, or the employment specialists are trying to provide.
Yeah.
We can move on to the next slide, please. So what would you say you learned from this customer's employment process?
Definitely a lot of patience. And I feel like that just came with, just giving him space to come to me, so to speak. Um, I did, made sure that he knew that, I always led with like, everything is about him. Like, I don't want to waste your time, Barton. I don't want to force you. I don't want to make you feel like this is something that you have to do. I want you to want this for yourself. And I know that, I would lead with that. And I think that's what, kept him coming back to our meetings and stuff. So I've definitely a lot of patience.
And when it comes to supporting him, in his employment site, after the fact, what kind of things have you been doing?
After he got implemented,
Yeah.
um, so so I went and supported him throughout his orientation and then his first day of work. I went and supported him. He did very, very well. I noticed that he was very open to communicating with his coworkers, like right off the bat. And I was a little nervous about that because, like I said, he's very quiet and reserved, and he only surrounds himself around people in his circle that he's known for many, many years, like probably most of his life. So I was kind of nervous about that, how he would interact with his coworkers, and that wasn't an issue at all. Um, he was very relaxed, very open to suggestions and things like that. He didn't give a lot of pushback or anything on the job itself. And then, now that it was pretty quick that he was like, I don't need you anymore. So now, like, I just do weekly check-ins with him to see how things are going, if he needs me for anything, things like that, and just how he's enjoying his job and, things like that.
Great. All right. Next slide. Okay, a few words from Barton. These are verbatim. Barton is a man of few words.
Yes.
Um, so he likes his coworkers. He likes working alongside the people at Meyer. Um, he did have another job. I think this is something that is very unique about Barton's situation is so he was working at Walgreens before, and he was only working 1 day a week, and he didn't get a lot of hours, and he was requesting hours, but one of the issues was he was having a hard time finishing the hours that he was already given. So his manager was not going to give him more hours because he was already kind of struggling with the limited hours he had. We're now at Meyer. I think he's working, what, Tara, 5 days a week, 4 days a week?
4 days a week. Yeah, 4 days a week. So he's working a max 20 hours a week.
So he went from very few hours, 1 day a week, to numerous days a week for more hours. And I think that the big thing with that is he needed something physical. I think that for the way that, the kind of job that Barton was going to be successful in, he's able to he knows exactly what he has to do. He needs to get the cards, he needs to bring them in, he needs to just do this back and forth. And I think for him, there's a small sense of victory each time he does that. So he wants to do it more and more and more. Where I think with Walgreens, it was very slow paced. Things changed a lot. There were disruptions in his day where people would ask him questions and he felt unsure of how to answer those questions sometimes. And for someone who lacks a bit of that self-confidence, with the job at Meyer, he's able to consistently get little bursts of confidence and to build up his day. I did 10 carts, I did another 10, I did another 10, which I think really benefited him and allowed him to take on those additional days and additional hours and be successful.
Yeah, I think he was definitely bored at Walgreens. And like you said, I think he needed something that's going to keep him on his feet and moving, not just standing in one space for, X amount of hours. So,
Yeah, it seems I have just been really surprised at how well he's done. I mean, those are a lot of hours to take on
however, I
quickly.
do I do want to add that he did choose to keep his job at Walgreens because I think this gave him such a boost of confidence that he wants to make more money, however, and he wants as many hours as he can get. So he did choose to keep his job at Walgreens. So he's actually working 5 days a week.
I think it's awesome. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think, and this is going to benefit Barton in so many other ways.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, we can move to the next slide. So what do you plan to do with your first paycheck? What did you do? I'm sorry, y'all. I don't know how that question got rearranged. Did Barton tell you what he wanted to do with
Yeah.
his first paycheck?
He said that he's gonna save it pretty much. That was his words.
It sounds about right.
Hmm.
And then the final question, how does working at Meyer and being a switch participant make you feel? I guess I can say it. My favorite part about the job is being more physically active. At first, it was hard, but I'm used to it now, and I like it more or less. Very Barton quote, I guess,
Yeah.
more or less.
Yes.
um, so yeah, that's Barton. Any questions about Barton? Any questions for Tara about working with Barton?
This is Shelley. I just wanted to point out that there's a question from the chat from Teresa saying, "Good job, Tara. Did the father participate in the Barton's transition?" I thought this is a really nice question leading to our next section. And yeah, I just wanted to read it here and so that Tara maybe could talk a little bit about that.
Yes, so if you're referring to his transition to Meyer, um, yes, um, Barton's father wants him to be totally independent, so he's not like a helicopter parent at all. Whenever I had questions and things like, for him, he would be more than willing to respond and get involved. But Barton is very independent and he's very vocal about he's his own guardian. He did come with him to um the working interview. He just shopped around the store and then afterwards he had a couple questions or whatever, but he's supportive as much as Barton allows him to be. Hope that answers your question.
Thank
Okay,
you,
thank you for
Tara.
that, Teresa. Okay, we can move to the next slide. Tara, thank you for that. I am going to pass this over to Xiaolei.
This is Shelley speaking. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Kyle, and thank you, Tara, for sharing the story. For those of you who were not at this SWTCIE annual meeting, we, like Kyle mentioned at the beginning, we did a panel discussion with all our CRSs, talking about more of the challenges, experience, relating to working with parents or more general working with guardians. And we'd like to continue this discussion. We were only able to cover probably 1/3 of it. And for those of you who are not there, I will have just a brief recap. But before we get into the content, we're gonna get the Slido activity started. Next slide, please. So to be honest with you all, this is our first time after practicing as a team. We're using Slido as well, but I think we got it this time. So just a few housekeeping notes in terms of Slido activities and what you're expecting and what's our expectations from your participation. So this is how you get into Slido. So if you could either open a web page on your laptop or on your computer, or just use your phone or iPad. So on this slide, on the left side, it says join at slido.com, spells as spells as SLIDO.com, dash 1177355. So that's how you join this Slido activity. And on the right side, there's also a QR code that you can just scan, use your phone or a tablet to get into this Slido activity page. And starting from here, we're gonna have quite a bit of Slido questions that requires maybe typing or just clicking some choices. So please keep your web page or device open or available for participating in the activities. And also, for those of you, if you'd rather share your answers to the Slido questions through just talking or through the chat, please feel free to do so. Some of the questions may require typing. So please just remember to say your name every time before you talk for accessibility purposes. And we also have our staff monitoring the chat. We will stop periodically to respond to the questions we see in the chat. So in terms of your participation, they're all anonymous, so we won't see who typed what answers to the Slido questions. And we will always read the questions and give you some time to put in your response. And we will read just random 2 to 4 answers for accessibility purposes, and also just to keep us on track of time. And also, I know that our time is limited here with this community practice for this activity, but I wanted to let you all know that all of your responses to Slido questions will be kept anonymously in the back end, and we as a team will review them again and put together all these valuable insights in the format of the informative report or brief and share back with you all, hopefully by the end of the year. Okay, and next slide, please. A little bit of a recap of what we did during the SWTCIE annual meeting, the panel. We started from just a question of asking everyone who you're working with as a parent. So we wanted to clarify that we say parents here, but in this context is more so a broader guardians or other family members as well who you work closely during the process of transitioning to competitive integrated employment. And one of our CRSS Elite also provided a very nice overview of the history of 14Cs. We would be able to share the slides if you don't have the information for those of you who are not there. When it started, where it started, and where we have been through in terms of legislative effort, and why we're phasing it out. We were hoping that we could provide you with a more of a balanced view of there is a reason that why 14C existed in the history, and there are also reasons that why we're doing the SWTCIE work we're doing now. And we started talking about some challenges from parents' involvement, and all of us were very impressed and appreciative of those who you were there and were able to share your experience in the annual meeting. And I hope this continues here, just in a little bit of a different format. Next slide, please. Okay, this is more of a warm-up activity of Slido. We fixed some of the error from the annual meeting Slido question. And this is a question in your agency, who are you working with as guardians? And the first choice is parents, specifically mother. Second choice is parents, specifically father. Third choice is grandparents. Third choice is grandparents. The fourth choice is siblings. The fifth choice is adult children. And sorry, it's changing as people are responding. The other choice is other non-family member guardians. And there's also a choice of siblings, I believe. I didn't say that. So people now can click multiple choices. So if you're working not only with one type of family member or guardians, please identify who you're working with. And I see that people are getting the answers in. I'll give you a few more seconds and let people just experience Slido for the first question. And also at this point, please let me know if you have any questions regarding Slido or anything that you wanted to ask. Okay, now I see there are 17 people who participated in the Slido polling activity, and out of now 18, so about 94% of the responses parents, specifically mother. So most of you are working with mother, and about 53% of you working with father. And the next one, 32% is other non-family member guardians. About 26% of you working with siblings. about 26% of you are working with other family members, and about 21% of you are working with grandparents. So far, I don't see any response in terms of working with adult children. Thank you all. Thank you all for participating. I'll pause for a few seconds. Is there any questions for Slido participation? Anyone who cannot access Slido? So to access a Slido activity, it's always on the left side of the screen. There is a joining code and the QR code. So we can, if for some reason you got kicked out or closed the window, you can always come back through that. Okay, thank you all. And next slide, please. I wanted to spend some time just talking about what are some of the strategies that's existing among you in terms of your way of engage parents. Tara talked some of her strategies of engaging clients, and I'm sure that among you, we have solutions already. We just needed to find out. And this is a platform that we hope that we could find some solutions that we may neglect of learning from each other or just even thinking about. So this is what we're going to focus on discussing. And next slide, please. So the first part would be the establishing relationship with parents. When you first meet with parents, it's still at the early phase of the discovery process. What are some of the strategies that we can use or you have used during the time that you've been working here on this project, or just in general working with individuals with disabilities going to competitive employment? And here leads to our first Slido question under this section. Next slide, please. The first question is a multiple choice. Did you feel prepared for your first interaction with parents? Number one is yes. Number two is no.
Charlie, I just wanted to say quick, for everyone, please feel free while these results are coming in, please feel free to, if you have a comment or suggestion, for anyone who's clicked no, I'd be curious if you're willing to share maybe what made you feel unprepared.
This is Shelley. Thank you, Kyle. Yeah, that's a really good idea, especially for those of you who said no. Maybe if you could share, you could just unmute yourself and say who you are and just talk about your experience, that why you didn't feel that you were prepared.
This is Kyle, and I would just think, and I haven't been an employment specialist, but I've worked in similar roles where I'm the first point of contact to a parent or a guardian about providing services to their child. And you never know what you're going to get, right? When you reach out to someone, you don't know the parent you're meeting. So sometimes the level of preparedness, you don't know until that the person picks up the phone or you meet them first. So it's hard to know all the time how to be prepared, or if you're going to be prepared. I wonder if that's maybe some of the mindset of the folks that said no.
This is Shelley. Yeah, feel free to put in the chat if you feel more comfortable that way.
Hi, this is Teresa from CTF Illinois. I marked no because exactly what Kyle said. You don't really know what the parent is looking for or the expectation. And so what you're going in with is what what your specialty is and what you all have to offer. And what we've kind of experienced is that parents aren't really, they could be looking for either or, wanting them to learn, but wanting them to be safe, wanting them to have a job, but only the way they want them to have it. And so the first meeting is usually more of a, I have my information, but I'm really here to see what type of service you're looking for.
This is
This
Shelley. Thank you, Teresa. Yeah, I think the expectation part, the just unpredictable aspect of it. Thank you for sharing.
May I ask, Teresa, what do you think would have made you feel more prepared going into that in retrospect now that you can, or now that you can reflect on that?
I think a little bit more information of the individual that you're meeting. And it depends on how you're meeting. So maybe if if there was some type of, I don't know if it's what would be called a survey, but maybe a list of exactly like what it is you want. We had parents looking for an extension of school, like school was. We had parents that want to be a part of everything that the child does. And so if you're willing to, how long do you think it would take for us before you would leave the child with us? Or maybe that's something that would be done right after the first meeting, so that the relationship is built with the customer, more than the relationship being built with the parent than the customer, because that takes even longer of a discovery process. Something just to kind of guide the employment specialist to say, okay, I have a little bit more understanding, the type of job, where the job, what I'm willing to do and not willing to do, as it relates to my child. And I'm talking specifically about us working with transitional youth. That is kind of new for us here. We've always worked with adults. And so adults come in and they go, I want this or I want that. They kind of give you what they're looking for versus you having to drill them with questions to figure it out, which causes then untrust because you're asking a whole lot of questions that you didn't know.
So can I ask everyone, executives, ESs, everyone on the call, does any agency have something that they share with families, with parents, whenever they are just beginning this process, especially that transition process, so that parents understand the difference and what to expect from an employment specialist and from the agency versus which services they were already receiving at the high school level? And if so, would you mind explaining that to us? And if not, is that something that we need to create?
Hi, this is Teresa again from CTF. I think it would be a good thing to create so that before the parents are even introduced to working in the community, they would know like exactly what these agencies do. I've had people say they didn't even know this existed. They just got the information and it wasn't, I guess, enough information that was given. So I think it would be helpful that they would know previous, you know, that these type of services exist and how they exist in advance.
Thank you, Teresa.
Hi, Concha.
This is Shelley.
Uh,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
We go through our employment handbook with families at the first time that we meet, both the individual and guardians. And our handbook explains what is expected of them, but what they can expect of us. So we do go through that. When it comes to educating, I feel like that's what the Dignity and Pay Grant is for. That is mainly educating the communities around us of what is out there and what people can expect.
And that makes sense. And thank you for bringing that up. I think that you have a unique perspective because you do have the SWTCIE and also that DIP grant, and some of the other agencies don't. So thank you for bringing that up, Erica.
This is Shelley. Thank you all. Let's move on to the next. If someone wants to talk. Okay. Let's move on to the next question. During your first meeting or conversation with parents, what questions did you receive? And this may require some typing. You could just provide a couple examples or anything that you remember during your first meeting with parents. I'll start reading the questions as they popping up on the screen. How will my child get to and from work? So a transportation question. Thank you. What services does the agency provide? Again, transportation questions. What kinds of supports and services that my child will receive from your support? So more of a understanding employment specialist role, functioning. Will they lose benefits? Benefit question. More specific question, will the job coach be with them at the job always? How will you keep my child safe in the community? What are some of the rules and who would benefit and who benefits from it? How often will we be meeting with them? So Slido is trying to summarize the themes from your answers. Some of them are related to child safety, and some are related to more of services, supports available, and agency. Thank you. Thank you all. Oh, another question, how long will service last and how many hours a day will they be involved? Okay, as soon as I see the typing indication is off, I'll move on to the next one. Okay, thank you all for participating. So next question, during those first meetings or interactions, what went well? Maybe pick 1 to 2 aspects of the first meeting that you think that went well or that set a good foundation of the relationship with future work with a client. We got some responses. The first one, it's easier when clients have an idea of what type of work they're looking for. So more of how prepared the client or their parents, guardians are in terms of how well they know the children. some good response to letting them know that you understand their concerns, building relationship, getting background history from the parents and experiencing being in the client's presence, allowing the parent to feel as part of the process. And the next one, making sure that the individual know that their voice is important to the process. I see a lot of more of a rapport building, relationship building, and kind of more of a involving and empowering parents from the beginning of this work is important. And one more, helping family members understand the benefits and responsibilities of the services. So providing more informative conversations and background, making sure family members understand what they're getting into. Thank you all. Thank you all for your responses. I think these are all great. And next we're gonna, the next slide, please. We're gonna look at how to maintain relationship with parents, and I'll let Kansha lead the discussion. Kansha, thank you.
Can't help if I'm muted. Sorry about that. All right, thanks, Xiaolei. Next slide, please. Okay, so thinking about communication with parents and that discovery process and job development process. So can you tell us how often you communicate with parents during those processes? It could be daily, weekly, monthly. And while everyone's typing their answers in, can I have some responses as to what kind of communication you're finding that parents prefer? Just thinking about parent schedules, family schedules. What are you all running into? Do people prefer email, text, phone calls? What are your thoughts? Okay, so I love that every appointment providing an email update. If that is your response and you're willing to share, could you tell us how that's going and how do you see families responding to that?
So this is Ann Jump. Most of the time it's just like a brief summary. So like bullet point notes of what we did and what we applied to. So if we applied to any jobs to look out for, or what we did during our weekly meeting. It just kind of keeps everybody on the same track. It doesn't have to be a long email. It's just quick. Hey, this is what we did today. Keep a lookout for blah, blah, blah employer if we applied to anything. So then they feel connected to the meetings.
Perfect. And Anne, do you have a canned email that you send out? So like a template where you're inserting specific information?
No.
Nope. Okay. All right. So I see parents preferring text. I can understand that. As needed, never shut them out. We must make sure they are comfortable with the process. I love that. Thank you. If anyone does use or does have a template that they use for communication with parents, if you wouldn't mind sharing that, that would be awesome. I'm sure that there are other people on the call who would love to see something or some sort of example. All right, can we go to the next slide, please? Hey, now can you share any strategies you use to keep parents engaged? I say engaged, but also, you know, that buy-in, getting the buy-in from parents. We have email, text, summaries of the meeting. Consistent updates about clients' progress and always highlighting something positive after each meeting. Ooh, that's a huge deal. Whoever wrote that, if you would like to give us a little more information on how you end it on a positive note each meeting, that would be great. Sending photos and videos of progress, call regularly, invite to the meetings or sending those updates regularly, letting them know you're always available. I love that. Progress and challenges, things they might be able to assist with in the day-to-day. I see 2 more participants typing, so I don't want to go to the next slide without getting all responses. Thank you for your patience, everyone. I love this sending photos and videos of progress, giving them that evidence, showing parents how their or guardians how their loved one is responding out in the world, and the pride that they feel in their work is important. All right, next slide, please. All right, CIE and meaningful work. Next slide. Okay, so have you had the chance to discuss the values of CIE with parents? We have 3 options. Yes, thoroughly. Yes, but I feel that more discussions about CIE values are needed. Or no, never. We've got 60 and 40 to the yes, or the yes thoroughly. Now, as agencies, can anyone or would anyone be interested in sharing what they use to share those values of CIE with parents?
This is Brandy from Kreider. We invite guardians to their very first meeting. So we go over our employment handbook and we talk about all of that on that day.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so how do you navigate situations where parents have concerns or hesitations about CIE opportunities? Can you tell us what worked? And this will take a little bit longer. This is going to require some typing, so thank you for bearing with us in some quiet.
This is Shelley, or just feel free to jump in and talk. We're hoping to make this more interactive and we don't have to follow specifically stick with the rule or anything.
This is Kathy from the workshop. So when this happens, I think just starting by listening and finding out, where their concern is coming from, where it's rooted, and then, just planning steps from there, where to go next. Sometimes you just need to slow things down, reassure the family that you're going to be there, through the whole process. And, but just like I said, just maybe start by listening and finding out where the concerns are coming from.
Thank you. I hear that listening again, listening and validating the parents' concerns or hesitations. Brainstorming different ideas to elevate those hesitations with reassurance and respect. Letting them express their concerns and address each thing. I love that. Providing parents with information about benefits counseling. I know from my experience, benefits and possible negative impacts from working are a big deal, and those are big concerns. Finding out more about those concerns, take a minute to address them. So while everyone is on, can you tell me some of the strategies that you use for active listening when you're talking with parents? And how do you ensure that they feel heard? I see that making sure parents feel heard and listening to them.
This is Teresa from CTF.
Hi, Teresa.
For me with parents, and I let them know that I'm going to be taking notes, as we have discussion, and then periodically through our discussion, I go back and kind of reiterate the things that I took important from the meeting and to see if they agree or disagree, and then anything that they wanted to see happen, just being transparent and making sure that they know if it's something our agency cannot do, that it's stated just like that, that this is something we're unable to do. But we also have a resource sheet that was given to us or provided to us. We give out resource sheets and hopefully can highlight places where they can get whatever the service that they're looking for that we aren't able to provide. And then just kind of through every meeting, just paraphrasing, okay, this is what I heard, this is what we're doing, it specifically, is there anything that you want to change? Because they do want to be heard, which is important, but at the same time, in responding to just kind of state that we need some independence from the individual, and how can we work towards that, even if it's just baby steps.
And thank you for pointing that out, Teresa, that it's important to have that parents are feeling heard and guardians are feeling heard, but also important to make sure that that conversation goes back to that customer, because these are person-centered decisions that are being made. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Next slide, please. All right. So how do you navigate situations where parents have concerns or hesitations about CIE opportunities? So, okay, parents, maybe now they're on board, they're understanding a little more, but they're a little nervous, a little afraid, hesitant. So you can either share what didn't work, and how you overcame those challenges, or tell us just how you overcame the concerns, how you addressed those. We'll take written responses or verbal. Not all at once, though. They're coming in. People are still typing responses. Ooh, lucky. We haven't had that yet. Usually by the time they find a job, they trust us enough to let us do our job. I love that. So you're taking the time. I'm not sure who that was. These are all anonymous, but you're taking the time to build that rapport, and establishing those relationships. Thank you. Again, brainstorming how to navigate the challenges together as a team, working together to keep building the bond. And one more response is coming. So I love this, and this is a good time maybe to reiterate the importance and the value in your team. So we meet for our COPs monthly. We're here to provide services, but as a team, you have a team of experts there, your employment specialists, your management, your executives. So if you run into these problems, taking them back home and asking these questions, brainstorming together, that's going to give you some good responses. So reassurance, taking the extra mile to ensure that the situation is handled and letting them know the individual is safe. So another one that's tapping into that trusting relationship, right? Building a relationship with the guardian so they trust your decision making and what's happening here in your support of their loved one. Awesome. Next slide, please. All right.
Sorry, Kansha, to interrupt you. Because we had some tech issues at the beginning, and we're close to 3:30, and we wanted to get to the next section, and maybe how about let's keep this parent panel as a continuous discussion, as a continuing theme, moving to the next community of practice as well. We have a section about parents' perspective, about just united voice, and we could coming back to this, and maybe we can pick up from some of our questions regarding your thoughts about the format of community practice, and we wanted to kind of assess where we're at, and we want to move towards. And Kyle, if that's okay with you and the team, maybe we can take it from there.
This is Kyle. Yeah, sure. That's fine. I think that's a great idea. Thank you everyone for participating on Slido. I hope it was easy to work with. We're hoping to utilize that more in COPs. I think that we want to give you all a voice, or give you an option to have a voice without necessarily having to speak on these calls. The more discussion, the better, of course. But we still want to hear from everybody. So we're trying to, I think you've seen we've tried different games, we've tried different techniques to kind of build the engagement of these COP events. Grace, if you want to go to the new COP slide, and you can go to the slide after the intro slide. Perfect. Thank you. So we've been doing this for a while now, right, everybody? A couple of years into these COPs, we try to develop them out based on, we try to bring in different speakers from outside agencies, different people with different levels of expertise in business development or working with clients. It's not always easy to develop content that's going to be meaningful to every single person within the SWTCIE agencies. So we want to offer an area for you to kind of bring your insight to the table. We want these to be meaningful for the frontline work, the best practices of what's occurring day to day with the employment specialists or also the supervisors, of course. We want it to be interactive. We want to have discussions. I think that when we all get together in a room and we're not in a virtual space, we really have really great discussions. And we want to try to replicate that in the virtual setting, but it's a little more difficult in this setting than it is when we're all sitting at the iHotel in one of those conference rooms. So, we want to talk about innovation and best practices for the employment specialists, and we want to hear from each other. The idea being we bring content to these, but we can also learn a lot from each other. Listening to Erica talk about the handbook that her agency uses, that might not be something that everyone is utilizing, or maybe the way that the content is delivered in that handbook is different than someone in the content that someone else is delivering to a parent. Those are the type of conversations we want to have in these COPs. So we're sharing best practices that are working already within different SWTCIE agencies with each other. We are committed to improving these, right? We want to make sure that they're meaningful for you all. If it's not meaningful, we want you to bring that up. We want you to tell us that. So we're going to give you an opportunity to sort of give us some of your responses via Slido in the next few slides. So with that being said, we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so based on the community of practices so far, what has been helpful? These are just, you don't have to pick from these 3 things. You could say anything. This could also be a place where you say what is not helpful. We are very open to critique. We are open to positive feedback and critique as well. Let us know what you find helpful, what you enjoy, what is meaningful in these community of practices, what you want to see more of. Okay, I like these ideas. I like anonymously allow ES to share problems, challenges they're facing, brainstorm solutions. Is that something you think? I know that whoever said that probably wants to stay anonymous, but if you could also put it in the chat, I know you can send more than one response. Some of your thoughts on, we did have the anonymous survey that I had created in the past and sent out to everyone, asking for information, asking for things. Do you think it's best to do that live in one of the community of practices, ask those questions and just build that discussion within the time we have, or asking prior to community of practice? Customer highlights, work through barriers. Okay. I would agree. For me, the customer highlights I enjoy those the most. I enjoy seeing the different stories, working with the employment specialists to hear about the work they've done. Upcoming events. Okay. Okay. I like that. So we have had sort of discussions about utilizing that real world challenges that ESs are going through, and then sort of separating into breakout rooms, and then all coming back with different ideas of how to address the same challenge. Customer highlights. Built into, okay, I see this, built into the COP. Still see some typing going on. Really appreciate this. I really, really do. I want you guys to look forward to these, right? I want you to come to the COPs, relatively excited about having this meeting on your calendar. Okay, the presentations from outside resources. I really like this too, sharing tools used at everyone's agencies. I think that's really important, because I think we can all see we all have the same common goal, right? But it works differently at each different agency. The role of the employment specialist is not universal in this project or anywhere. So it's interesting to hear from everyone to know, how they navigate these different things or what their different goals are. Looks like our typing is done. Okay, really appreciate that. We can move on to the next question. Those responses are all saved, just so everybody knows. So we can go back and look through those. I think those are some really meaningful responses that we will incorporate into the future COPs. Very simple question here. So this encapsulates all the past community of practices. Not going to hurt my feelings, y'all. Maybe a little bit, but we just have a couple more minutes. Sometimes. Okay, I think I'm going to just move along to the next question to get those responses in there. Okay, what areas of technical assistance would you like to see addressed at future community of practices? And if you can try to be specific as possible. I'm sure there's numerous things: job development, working with employers, creating connections, community mapping, providing instruction to clients, teaching new skills. There's a lot of things. But if there's something with, some more detailed answers, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, and this is Shelley, and this is more of a follow-up question specific to one of you said that outside presentations. If so, then we're hoping that this is driven by you, by the agency, by the employment specialist. We're hoping that we're not the one who decide what you need, but we want you to tell us what are some of the topics that's helpful for you.
I like that. I think AI is something that can be used in a lot of different areas in this work, both with clients and, of course, companies utilize this when looking at resumes and things like that. But I think there's a bigger use for AI to really assist the employment specialists or even assist clients too. I know that there's different opinions about the use of AI, but I think that as time passes, we're going to see that can be a normal thing to be used to help you in your day-to-day, similar to spell check or Grammarly or things like that, that can be utilized in a very unique way to help build understanding, help teach, help inform employment specialists how to teach things. So I really like just that AI was brought up. You're trying to access the assistance. Whoever typed that, could you maybe expound on that with another response? And we are at 3:31. Of course, understand if people have to hop off. Okay. I'm wondering if we're referring to DRS, if we're referring to benefits referral services. Okay. So that's the second time I've heard that, which I think is great. I think that's the goal of these. You know, we try to get the discussions going. We want to build the discussion into assisting each other and learning from each other, like we do when we're in person at the ES Roundtable events, at the annual meeting. I think that's the most valuable information that occurs, is those one-on-one group conversations that you have with your fellow agency personnel that talk about similar problems and how they've been navigated. All right. I think for the sake of time, we're going to go ahead and call this. You all have been extremely patient today. Thank you for the patience in getting into this call, getting on through the link. Really, really appreciate it. Please, if you have any other feedback, you can always email me. You know, if Slido was good, if it was bad, you know, a thumbs up with an email for Slido would be good. But again, we're trying to make these as meaningful as possible for the group. So thank you very much for sharing your information on working with parents and also sharing information on the COP in general. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.